want to talk about why we pursue relationships with the wrong people, right? People who are not right for us, but who we dress up as right for us and who we continue to pursue, even though there's a very tangible element of wrongness. And we continue to do it time and time again, where we end up saying something to the extent of, that's my type. And we do this in dating and love and friendships and relationships of all kind, so often that we fall into a pattern of doing it. And likely it's an unhealthy, draining pattern. It's a pattern born of childhood learnings, patterns born of past pain, patterns born of rushing, self-judgment, the meaty stuff of life, the stuff that threatens to shape us in ways that are not redeeming or healthy. And we make decisions based on those patterns, and we continue to end up with the wrong people. And we continue to do it in the face of better choices and better options because, as I've seen it so eloquently put on social media, we mistake someone for our type when in reality, they're just our pattern. And as we've identified, it's a negative, draining, unhealthy pattern. They're not your type, they're your pattern. They're not your type, they're your pattern. Let that sink in. Leave it to the wisdom of the internet to so eloquently put what I think a therapist might take months or years to help you understand. They're not your type, they're your pattern. A pattern born of many different things. But let's break this down because it's a really important distinction, a type versus a pattern, that I think we're quick to overlook. We're quick to overlook the role that we play in that pattern. And, what I found is we pursue what we think we want in life. Of course, right? It makes sense. I hope you do, in fact. But the magic of being human, that is, of having awareness and the ability to turn awareness into action, that lies in our ability to tell the difference between what you want and deserve and just repeating behaviors and accepting based on past experiences. If we don't make that distinction, we'll continue to end up with people who are not on the same page as we are. We'll mistake controlling behavior for confidence. We'll mistake love bombing for a magical spark. We'll mistake hurtful words for honesty. We'll mistake jealousy for passion and so on. Because we keep looking for the latter parts of those sentences in the same kinds of people because we're saying something like, well, that's my type. My type is tall, dark, and handsome, and honest and passionate, for instance. That is my type for sure. Those are preferences. Those are what you think you want in a person on paper, baseline. And that's good. It's good to be able to verbalize that. But if you continue to seek those qualities out, but you find yourself with only the beginning parts of those sentences, controlling, jealous, hurtful, we have to take a hard look at this idea of having a type. Perhaps in a rush to find your type, you are subconsciously falling back into a pattern that is the mirror to those qualities. You can indeed find a passionate, ambitious, dream big person who doesn't come with an inflated ego or controlling behavior. You can indeed find a life of the party goofball who doesn't come with immaturity and lack of emotional awareness. You can indeed find an alpha, take control kind of person who doesn't come with always needing to be right or an ego. We have to escape patterns by realizing this about a type. And I did an episode a while back on how we seek out familiarity in other people, unhealthy familiarity that was likely born in childhood or adolescence and reinforced in adult relationships and, cemented in our current pattern. It's the same idea here. We sit down, we say, I want this, I want that, and we call it having a type. And we pursue our type because that's what you do, right? You decide what you want and you go after it. And then after time, you say, man, I guess I just have a type, don't I? As a way to kind of make fun of yourself for making poor choices. Partners, choices who seemingly had those traits but ended up not being healthy for you. That is a pattern. It's not a type. It's a pattern you've found yourself in because of your own decisions. That's a pattern born of past wounds that have been reinforced in the present. They're not your type, they're your pattern. So it begs the question, what would it take to wipe the slate clean to say, I don't have a type? Because clearly that, having a type has only ended in frustration of some kind. I don't have a type. What I have is a pattern that I need to break. And to be in this position in life is okay, of course. Like, we're not discounting past relationships. There's value there. There were good times there, of course. We're not doing that disparaging thing that people love to do where we say any failed love is a failure. Of course not. But what we're doing now is we're opening up the road ahead to allow ourselves to break the pattern we've put ourselves in. Because the reality is, whatever words you use, type, pattern, you can't break free of it if you continue to rationalize it as being right for you. So really, this is about you, me, everyone breaking free of the patterns you've found yourself in. Not because you're entirely at fault, but because we tend to do this thing where we project our frustration to saying, that's just my type. And we leave it there. We just leave it there. We're thinking that having a type and ending up in an unhealthy relationship is just part of the battle. Oh, that's just part of wanting to be with someone who loves hard. Or, oh, that's just Aries men for you. Or that's just the way that confident men are. No, the pattern is not them. It's you putting up with them. It's you taking a step back and saying, okay, I've always said my type, for instance, is confident, passionate men. If you're a woman who dates men. Well, what does also come with that type each and every time? Ego, jealousy, controlling behavior, dishonesty maybe. In an effort to pursue your type, your confident, passionate man type, have you maybe subconsciously fallen into a pattern of accepting ego, jealousy, and controlling behavior as being part of that type? It is what it is. Be real with yourself. Maybe not overtly, but on that deep level, we've been talking ourselves into it. If you do it enough, that if you chase a confident man, it comes with ego. And voila, that becomes a pattern of the negative of you falling into the type, a pattern of being drawn to qualities you would never say out loud you want because you think that, oh, it just comes with the territory. Breaking a pattern starts with you because a pattern becomes a pattern when we hang on to certain types of rationalization that we're prone to. That once you find your type, you have to hang on to them. And honestly, I think that's like the downside of knowing what you want in a partner, because when you know what you want, you find it. And we tend to do this thing where we ignore the unhealthy things that come along with it because we're so focused on, oh, they're my type, that we assume that anything that comes along with them is it's a package deal. And the longer we do that, the longer we rationalize, we start to think that it's normal. We find familiarity there, and voila, it becomes a pattern. So definitely not discouraging you from knowing what you want in a partner, but perhaps the key to breaking a pattern is being able to vocalize what you want, but also what you don't want, so that you could spot it and react instead of finding familiarity there. Certainly, very certainly, there's a strong case here for you to talk to a therapist or someone who can help you break down why you allow misguided balance in your life, thinking that love, that push and pull of love, that honesty followed by dishonesty, that passion followed by controlling behavior is normal. Why? Your tolerance for those things or you normalizing them didn't come from nowhere. You being weak, it came from somewhere. And, truly, I think talking to someone who's trained and a therapist can really help you here, of course. But as I've gotten deeper into my 30s, I've realized how much we've blocked from our hearts, the why, the past that shaped us more than we give credit to, inclinations in the present that were born of past conditioning, fear, tiptoeing around, having love given and taken away in the same breath. That kind of stuff is real, and we carry it into our adult lives. So definitely encourage you to spend some time digging into the why. But to my point, in the present, we tend to be somewhat aware of these things, but we counter them by being so focused on what we want. That's my type. That's what I want. And when we find it, we're so focused on that we allow ourselves to fall into that pattern again and again and again. So to break the pattern, you have to be aware of the pattern. So if you find yourself in unhealthy, disappointing relationships one after another, break it down. What were the glowing aspects of them, the parts of them that led you to them because they were your type? And then get real. What were the not so great aspects, the aspects you overlooked in favor of the glowing parts, but that you overlooked and you found familiarity there? List out those bad parts. List them out, not to bum yourself out and whatever, but to splash some cold water on your face to realize that the basis of your pattern wasn't your type. It was the opposite. It was the unglowing, the negative, unhealthy parts of those people. What are the opposites of their type that led to the decline of the relationship, that led you to realize there was misalignment, big ones or little ones, lack of reciprocity, misaligned communication styles, basic stuff, or maybe more triggering stuff, lack of empathy, jealousy, control, the bad stuff. Why did you put up with those things? Or more important, why did you think having a, quote, type means that those things naturally come with it? Again, you can find a passionate, ambitious person who doesn't come with ego. You could find a goofball who doesn't take themselves seriously, who also does have self-awareness. You could find an alpha take control person who doesn't always need to be right or who looks down on you. Your type versus your pattern. Which are you pursuing? Obviously, it's the first in theory. We don't outright pursue the latter, but a pattern means we've allowed ourselves to rationalize those traits as being okay, as being part of the battle for your type. Breaking a pattern means opening your eyes to the fact that those latter qualities are not a requirement. Just because you found your type doesn't mean you need to put up with your pattern. Know what you want. Yes, that's half the battle, but the other half is knowing what you don't want. Being able to spot it, voice it, remove yourself from that familiarity it presents. Not because you're dumb, but because you've seen it before and you've learned to accept it. And now you're deciding it doesn't come with the territory. Breaking a pattern says it's not a requirement. It's no longer acceptable for you. And that is how you break a pattern.